Hi, Blind Guy Garage again. Well, today I'm going to try to do a little bit of a video on is diagnosing, where is it? There, this. Whoa, almost dropped it. PTO. And this is the same to be true for a lot of electric clutches of any kind, AC clutches and things like that too. And I have the apparatus on my head because I wanted to free up my hands here and get y'all in it, and I don't have to sit and hold it, so I can move both my arms. I don't know why more YouTubers don't use these. This is pretty awesome. So what we have here is a machine that came in that had some PTO problems, and the reason it had PTO problems, which I hope I didn't leave this. Alright, we do have a hot battery. Is it was blowing the fuses, or blowing the fuse, and just causing all kind of mayhem. It wouldn't come on. If you tried to start the PTO, it would blow the fuse. Otherwise the mower would run and do everything it does except run the deck. So got to messing with it, and somebody had been butchering the machine and got into the harness and all that, so I just kind of had to make do with what I could. These switches, I guess we'll just go through my normal process. If you're looking at your PTO and it doesn't work, check your fuse. Sometimes there's two. They're going to be different sizes. One is for the entire machine, or the machine, and then one would be for the PTO. Typically, unless you have something that's higher option and it's got more doodads and amenities and whatnots on it. You know, I don't know, you got heated seat, whatever. But the PTO switch has typically it has somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 9, maybe more. I've not seen one with more pins on the back of this switch here. Only two usually are hot. I've not seen one yet that was more than just two are hot. One's a hot or power coming in, and one's power going out when it's turned on. That position. The rest are all ground, usually because they are the ones that are attached to all your safeties. You'll have a plug on your PTO that looks like that. Almost all of them are this way. I've seen some that are different, but very, very few, and they're old. This they've been using for decades. And this is full of water. So you turn this on, see if you have power at your plug, and typically you can just hook your test light to your ground on the battery and touch it to both of these wires, because either one of these can be hot or negative. You can switch them up and it'll still work the PTO just fine. Most of the time, that is. With the PTO out of the circuit altogether, I'll show you that in a second. So you don't have power there, then go backwards. If you have a good fuse and everything's good, then you go backwards. So you go from here back to your switch and back probe it. They're really easy to back probe. They're not weather packed or nothing. They're open in the back side, so you can easily slide your probe from your test light in there, and you can get it into everything. So if you have no power there, then of course now we've got a problem where we're not getting power from the main harness over to your PTO, and you can jumper wire that if you need to. Make sure you line it up with a fused circuit, that kind of thing, and you're good. And usually this will come back on and start working again. If that is not your problem, you have power but you have nothing coming out of the switch, well, sometimes that'll be because of the switch is bad. Some of these switches, I think, turn the power off if there's a safety engaging. It can turn power off going to the PTO, but typically it's a open ground situation. So bypassing the switch altogether, all the grounds on the switch is another option. Sometimes you just run a ground over here to your plug, and this still works properly, except you can turn the blades on and not be on the machine, which is dangerous. That's at your own discretion. I mean, there's a reason why they make it where when you get off of it, the blades turn off. You can get hurt. Or, you know, God forbid someone's your kid or grandchild comes up running to you, and you're sitting there messing with the machine, you're not on it or whatever, and they slide up underneath this thing while it's running. I mean, I've heard all kinds of crazy horror stories that are just terrible, but that is still an option. Y'all, I don't recommend it. I like keeping all my safeties working, except for some of these zero turns where you can't mow but with backing up. So that's the basics there. There are going to be other problems. If you have a huge amount of resistance between your two terminals for your PTO, it can be the PTO is shorted out, and that's why we're going to go over here. I'm going to show you that stuff. So what we have here is a PTO, and here's a plug. See what I say about it looking that way? And then I have a power system here, a little power thingy. I think this was for CB radios. It's buzzing, so it'll come on. So I'm not even worried about hot or negative on the plug. You can switch them like this out here. Or you can make the wire pop right out. Well, we'll put this one in first then. That going there. And then this one. It does the same thing both directions. It doesn't matter. It don't care. It just wants power to run through that electromagnet. So switch them up. No big deal. Alright. So if you have a huge amount of resistance or no resistance at all through here, you're going to have things to take into consideration. The resistance levels are all different for all these different PTOs. Typically you don't really have one that's super sluggish, or you can tell, like, as it sits here just on, it's getting hot. They shouldn't be getting hot. If it's getting the wiring on the machine hot, or you notice that this plug is melted or starting to bubble up, yeah, we're probably not good. That's not going to be like, they're not super high voltage either, or amperage anyway. It's all 12 volts, but it's not high amps. But like this PTO here, it's old, it's been sitting. I mean, it can sit here on all day and it won't get so hot you can't touch it. But some that are messed up, well, they might get so hot you can't touch them. Even running with the belt and stuff, they shouldn't be getting super hot. You're not going to have a lot of slip on the belt unless you have wore out belts and things like that. Of course, this thing has this crazy shaft extension stuck in it. If you're working on a project where you're just going to make this work and it's going to do something totally different other than doing a belt, which one of my things was I wanted to turn a alternator one time. You can just set it up where you have it on off, and it doesn't matter how you hook the wires up. It just wants ground on one, doesn't matter which one. It just wants power on one, it doesn't matter which one. And that's really it. If you guys feel like you need another video for installation of a PTO, that's another one. It's really easy, but you've got to make sure about, you know, spacing here and, you know, things like that. We could do a video about that, but it's pretty simple. It's not terrible. It seems super intimidating, especially when you flip that PTO switch around and you've got umpteen wires from everywhere on it, and then you've got wires going all over this thing. But typically they're controlled. It's ground side control on most stuff, for the safety stuff. John Deere does some power stuff. John Deere has a control module too, like a little computer box for that stuff. And Grasshopper and some other companies do that. But typically on like MTDs and AYPs and stuff, they don't really have a whole lot of that stuff. And especially your older machines, which is the stuff that people are getting brave enough to mess with. But that's just a really quick thing to give you an idea of where you're going to be in some of this stuff. So, thank you guys. Stay blessed. Hope this helps. Comment below if it did.